While writing this pretty little pop ballad, I thought to myself, geez, this would be beautiful with piano, voice, and strings. Suddenly, the ghost of Mozart appeared and said to me, "You noob, you can't do that. You're a bedroom producer." Could have been nicer about it, but he's right. So I asked my bandmate, a legitimate classical composer with a genuinely intimidating resume, to arrange a song for me, and this is what I learned. The piano arrangement. See, in pop piano arrangements, both hands usually hover around middle C, and they only span about a fifth to an octave each. This makes it easy to play and sing at the same time, but this piece was not intended to be sung and played at the same time. So in some places in this song, each hand can span 2 or even 3 octaves within a couple bars. Spreading it out like this creates a few opportunities for us. First, we can have an open and resonant low to mid range while having a sparse but twinkly upper range, despite having a lot of dissonances and fully voiced chords in the upper range. If we were to put this all in the same core register, it would sound a lot heavier, dense, and more kind of plodding than what we have here, and that's not the feeling that we're going for. Plus, we're trying to stick it to Mozart, and this looks a lot more impressive, doesn't it? But it doesn't just look impressive, it also creates a lot of space. Space for vocals and other instruments, but also independent voices within the piano itself. See, these lines coming out of the note heads, those are called stems, and when they go in different directions, they are meant to be perceived as individual voices, making it feel like a more expansive piano performance and like there are multiple piano players playing at once. This might look impossible to play, but trained pianists will know that they have to cheat a little bit by playing the low notes first and then the higher ones a little bit later, and using the sustain pedal to cover it up and keep it all sounding smooth. We'll be coming back to the piano later when we talk about the arrangement as a whole, but for now, let's move on to the strings. The string arrangement. These are not intended to be all played at the same time on a MIDI instrument. You could play each staff or voice individually on a MIDI keyboard, but it would still sound dumb because a lot of pitches repeat right after each other across different instruments, and with the perfect tuning of MIDI strings, you totally lose the sense of the melodic line. Real strings are always slightly out of tune, and so a line like this will sound totally different, and all of a sudden it makes a lot more sense. Here's another part that makes no sense. Did you hear that? No, you didn't. Yes, you did. For some reason, I thought the notation software didn't have harmonics and that you wouldn't hear anything. But the point is that not all MIDI string libraries will have harmonics. You know who else didn't have a lot of harmonics? Mozart. Now let's talk about the arrangement as a whole. Another factor contributing to the apparent complicatedness of this is how rhythmically active this is. Pop ballads tend to use a lot of long note values, but in classical and jazz, the two strongest influences on this piece, there still will be some instruments using longer notes, but there will often be others that subdivide a lot more than at faster tempos. Subdividing this way makes it a lot easier to keep steady time at slower tempos, especially in a group setting, but it also helps to add a lot of momentum. Speaking of momentum, this piece develops smoothly and deliberately in a number of ways, like with the piano voicings. For example, texturally, the piano starts out with just one note at a time, then 2 notes here and there, and then full chord voicings, like with the rhythm. Whereas pop ballads tend to fall into the trap of setting up some sort of rhythmic pattern that is kept throughout the whole piece or for long sections, here we have a feeling of repetition, but nothing quite repeats exactly the same way. The repetition is slightly obscured by octave displacements, slightly different chord voicings, slight rhythmic variations, introduction of new voices or new instruments, and dynamic arcs both at the macro level of the entire piece, but also at the micro level of shorter phrases. If you want to prove to Mozart that you're not just a bedroom producer either, then you'll probably want to learn how to pretend like you know how to play piano with this video. I actually used all the tricks in that video to record the piano for this song, and I'm not a piano player at all. Got that right.